Greetings, survivors. This is a second video on how to add a prefab to your game world. Uh, I made a first one, but I saw some people having problems, so I decided to make something more, uh, something addressing those problems, perhaps a better way of doing it, and go over what those problems might be. So this time I'm going to start with where you can get that stuff. So there are two main sites besides the FunPimp 7 Days to Die forums where you can get mods. So one here is Nexus mods on the 7 Days to Die game. And then there are the categories. You want the prefabs. So here on prefabs, you can find many different prefabs and or points of interest, as you might wish to call them, um, to add to your game. So in the previous video, I showed this one in particular, the A10 Snow Hope mod. The other site you can go to is 7 Days to Die mods. I particularly prefer the site for 7 Days to Die. I use Nexus mod a lot for Fallout or the games. Um, though on this site, the category is not very clear. You can find some on building mods, though building mods is really sort of not supposed to be about the buildings themselves, but there is um, actual prefabs in it. You can also find it on other mods. I wish they would add the prefabs category, but anyway. Either way you go, you can also just search for what you're searching or what you want if you know the name, right? Um, you go there and, well, I'm not sure I can find No Hope on this one actually, but let's say the Home Depot, for example. Um, here on 7 Days to Die mods, you just scroll down and then there is a download thing here. Now, um, I'm not sure that one was actually a prefab mod, but anyway. Or here, well, you have the download options here. You can just use manual if you are not used to Nexus mods and just download that thing. The next step, though, is to go into 7 Days to Die. So you can click here, properties, right? You can also right click on the game, properties, local files, and browse local files. And that will bring you to the 7 Days to Die installation folder. And you want specifically for prefabs, you want to go into data and prefabs and copy the files here. So I have here installed, for example, the HN Mall, HN Snow Hope Mall. I also have installed here the normal mall. Now, copying the files here will not make these mods, these prefabs appear in your normal world, in your random gen. That's not going to happen. It needs more changes for that to happen. Now, for other mods, you will copy them here. Most of the mods, you copy them here. But I'm talking about prefabs in particular. So you copy them here, and then you can start the game, and we'll look into that. But before we do that, let's also look at the forum 7days2die.com. This is the official forums of 7 Days to Die, and this is where you find most of the stuff. So here, there is one place in particular, just here, prefabs, game modification, and then there is a bunch of sub-forums. You can go here on prefabs. There is here like a bunch of stuff. In fact, there is the compo pack, which is a compilation of prefabs in people made available. And if you install compo pack, then your random gen will have those prefabs. So it's forums.7days2die.com. All right, so once you are inside the game, you want to go into editing tools. And I do not recommend you change nav's gain because once 7 days to die gets updated, any changes you made to nav's gain will be overwritten. So I recommend you use a random roll. So you can set here, make any random roll you want. And then once that is done, you come to the road editor. And let's just go back. All of this is being done under editing tools, road editor. And you're gonna find the world you want. I have this one here. This is um, at random gen mode. So let's go there. So you start the world editor in God mode, and with creative enabled, just press U and you can access any blocks available. Some of them are only available if you click here. Um, it's sort of like player versus every block thing. Now, this is a normal world in the game, and but you have a lot of tools. So if you go into the pause menu, you have on the left side, you will have like the save world option. So that's one thing new. And on the right side, besides this thing here, which is the normal DM mode menu, you have other options for level tools. You have 2 tabs for level tools. And you have also a prefab thing here. Now, if you go on the first menu here of level tools and click show dynamic prefabs, these are the buildings of the world. So you will only be able to change what prefabs are in the world. Say I come here and I erase a chunk of the map here. I'll make a hole in the world, right? If I save the world, this is not going to be there because this is not a prefab. All you can change are the prefabs that are in the world and where they are. So I'm going to start with the first method, which is replacing a prefab with another. So with the prefabs being shown, you're going to aim at one of them, you're going to click, and then you're going to press K, and that's going to bring this menu here, the prefab menu. And you're going to scroll here and find the prefab you want. In this case, I want the HN mall. And I'm going to load that into clipboard, then press K again, and replace active prefab. Now, this is the new position for the prefab. And at this point, it will be better to, it will be the best moment to move the prefab. So you press G, which shows these arrows, and you can use the mouse to drag these arrows and therefore drag the prefab around. So you can move it up and down. You can move it from one side to the other, or you can move back and forward. Now, I'm going to place the prefab here, so I'm going to press K, replace active prefab. All right. And some of these steps may take a long time with prefabs as big as this. In fact, I had to make a cut here. And you're going to click Apply BB Positions, which basically means this is the place where I want this prefab. And these are the dimensions I want this prefab to have. So apply BB size, you can change the prefab size. Now, you notice here in this menu, there is an Y offset, and it says -7. That means this prefab is supposed to be 7 blocks into the ground. But when I loaded it loaded where that other prefab was. If that other prefab had some underground part, it will be into the ground. If it had not, it will be above. So press G, and I have to find that arrow there. And then I'm going to move this 7 blocks down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. With that, this prefab is going to be redrawn into the new position. Now, this takes a while. Um, and one suggestion I have when these things are taking a while, particularly with very big prefabs, it's sometimes easier to save because it's redoing all the blocks. And sometimes it's just easy to save, and then you exit and go into Edit to Tools, unload the game again. And once we are back, we can see the prefab there. Now, I said try to find terrain that is flat. Some of the prefab is at the correct level, some of it's not, because the terrain here is not flat. But there is a bigger problem here, and that's what caused issues when people followed my previous video using this method. So press ask again and go into level 2s again and show dynamic prefabs. There is a prefab that is here. And this prefab here, it's going to show up in the game again. So you're going to get 2 prefabs in the same spot. That will cause issues, right? Now, one of the possibilities is you select this prefab here and press K, and you click delete prefab, and there you go. That prefab is no longer in the game. And it destroyed the terrain here when it's removed, but that's not relevant because this guy is still here. So it will draw correctly when you start the game. Likewise, this guy here is south into this prefab. Another option is simply to move this prefab here a little bit to the side so it won't cause issues with the prefab you added. Now, this can be a little bit complicated, so let's look at a different method. All right, so I'm in another region of the map. I noticed there is some flat terrain here, so this is where I want to add a new prefab. Now, here's a tip. When you add a prefab, it's always going to be, well, if you replace a prefab, it's going to be replaced from the southeast corner. If you add a prefab, it's going to be added from the southeast corner. So if I add a prefab here, it's going to go from here, actually, to, this is the southeast. It's going to go here in that direction. Just a couple of tips. In the help menu, there is all these keys I'm using. And the G key might not work for you because it needs to be associated with drop to belt item. So if you remove this key binding, then G is not going to work. You have to add a key binding here for that to work. And whatever you add, that's the key you're going to work. You're going to use. So I'm going to press Z or Z, right? This here, create a selection box and aim at the location that's going to be the southeast corner. So there it is. I'm going to go ask again, and I'm going to go this time into prefab browser. I'm going to search here for the mall I want, and this time I'm going to add this mall here. This is the Eden Mall. So we're going to click in load the select prefab into the current world. And there it is. And so I place on the southwest corner just to be annoying to me. So I'm going to place a new selection here. And by the way, to remove the selection, press backspace. So I'm gonna place this thing here, pointing. Oh, it is not southeast, it is southwest corner indeed. So it's always the southwest corner. Sorry. It's, if you can think of as the bottom left of the map, right? So everything starts on this bottom left here and goes in that direction. So southwest, I had southeast in my mind for a different reason, but let's go again and load into, and there it is. And you can see that it's actually going into other prefabs, or is it? So it's clear from this side. It's overlapping a little bit here. So I'm gonna click here and move it a little bit there, so it's no longer overlapping here. And then I'm gonna move here. It's overlapping just a little bit. So I'm gonna move just a couple of spots. Maybe one more, just to create separation. So I now have placed this prefab, and I can save the world, and it will be there. Okay, so the prefab is there, and I wanted to show a few things to you. Let's turn this off. And first, let's look at this parking lot. So this is all sand, right? Actually not. If you press F3, you're gonna get a nice menu there. And then you point at a block, say here, and press Shift. It's gonna show what the block is. So it's saying there that this is a concrete plate, this is a concrete pole, and this is asphalt. Now, with Alpha 18, they did a change on Alpha 18. That means that as asphalt will be rendered not based on what the kind of block is, but based on something else. And same thing for sand or anything else. So the kind of terrain that is going to be shown is not based on what the actual terrain is. And that will cause problems with prefabs that have asphalt. On when you do a random generation, the game goes over the map and look at where there is asphalt and makes roads there so that it will actually show us asphalt. That's not the case here. So yeah, um, if you have asphalt on the prefab, it will look weird. Now, press F3, remove that, and we're going to show the dynamic prefab again. I'm going to select this and press K to get the prefab menu and see that the Y offset is -1. So in fact, I should move this thing one block down. So press G, get this guy here, and move one block down. And if you're just moving one block, you might press the movement keys to move it instead. Now that's one thing. Another thing is you might want this thing to face another direction. The way you do that is by pressing X. Every time you place X, it's going to rotate this clockwise 90 degrees. And it's going to take a long, long, long time. And after it does that, there's going to be things in the screen that are not there. So trust the box. Do not trust what the blocks you're seeing in the map are. So I'll be back when it finish rotating. So this is the first rotation, 90 degrees. And you can see how things look very weird indeed, but it's now facing that way. So I'm going to press X again and once more to face the way I actually want. So I have finished rotating this, and now because this dimension is bigger than this other dimension, it's intruding on that prefab there. Press Press G here. Where's the arrow keys? Press G. There they are. I'm gonna move closer here. I'm gonna move this. Yeah, just move this way here. Okay. Now this doesn't exist. Once you save the world and go back, it's gonna be there. So press ask, press save, and you can go out and look at that. Now, these are the basic techniques. The thing to remember is nothing you do here. I could add blocks, for example, to the world. I could move stuff around. None of these changes get saved. This doesn't make part of the world. The only way it can be part of the world if it's a save that as a prefab. So I could like mark a box here and then press the K menu, go into dynamic prefabs and do a create new prefab and then save that. And then that will be saved into the world and saved as a prefab. So let's look at one final thing. I'm looking at the map and this white square here is a starting location. So I happen to be right on top of it. I'm gonna go here on level tools and click start location, show start location. So there is the start location and I can move this thing around. I'm guessing, select that, press G, and I can move it around. And if it's selected and you press K, you go into the spawn point menu and you can change the direction where you're looking at when you spawn there. Now, if you show the map, you see other spawn locations. So let's create one spawn location for this prefab. Gonna be right here. Now, I'm gonna go exit the fly mode so that I can be on the ground. I'm gonna press F6. I'm gonna click level start point. And now it created the start point here. Let's fly again. I just have to find it. Show start point. It might require... Did it? Oh, it moved it here. So it creates on where you're looking at. So let's look at here. Click level start point. Yeah, there it is. And press K. Change the heading so it's looking at the mall. Perfect. Change a little bit more. Yeah, that looks good to me. As for the one I created in the wrong place, click on it and press backspace. It's going to be removed. All right. So that one is gone. This guy here is back. There it is. Now, this is not going... You can remove every spawn point in the world, of course, by just going at the map, and you can control click to go to the locations. So I can come to hit this location and there it is, the spawn point. So I can come here, select it and delete it with the backspace and do that one by one. There is another form of doing that, which is going to the map directory and you edit this file called spawn points, and then you remove every location you don't want. And these locations are east-west. If it's negative, it's west. Otherwise, it's east. So this is east. Those are west. Elevation, and then the last number is north-south. If it's negative, it's south. So this is 888 south. This is 264 north. So you can delete the spawn locations you don't want. The maps, when you generate them, this one happens to be in a different place, but you type percent app data percent slash backslash 7 days to die backslash generated worlds. These are the worlds I have generated, so I can go there, go to a spawn points and edit that. And you can also add spawn points through here, though doing the editor is easier. So that's all for today. I hope you guys find it useful, and thank you for watching.